Hi, everybody. I'm sorry I'm a few minutes late, but I'm here. And I have a special guest with me today.
Hello.
For those who don't know, this is mi esposa. Esposo is feminine. Esposo.
I think so.
This is my husband, Clifton.
Hello,
Goes by
everybody.
Cliff. So instead of just joining me in the comments today, I'm going to be here because where more do you need communication than in marriage, right? Am I right? Okay. So, anyway, give time for a few people to hop on here, but so glad that you guys are joining us. We are talking today. It was like almost a unanimous vote about communication. So we're going to be talking about communication today. I'm super excited about that because without effective communication, you have nothing. Hey, Jessica. So we are going to be talking today about communication. So I'm just going to jump right in because I know I'm a little bit behind schedule. Thank you guys for joining so late. So communication. We know that can be verbally, that can be nonverbal. There's a lot of different ways that we can communicate with one another. So first, before we talk about communication and how it works effectively, we have to talk about some of those barriers to communication. So some of the barriers to communication can be judging, hearing but not listening, and that's where you're kind of, hey girl, that's where you're kind of just, you're so quick waiting to respond to the other person that you're not really taking in what they're saying, right? So you're kind of sitting there just like, and you're listening to respond rather than listening to actually hear and to understand and to comprehend. And so we don't want to do that. That can be one of the main barriers to communication. Giving unwanted solutions or advice. So a lot of times we'll see that not just with men, but a lot of times men will often want to fix things, right? Even women, I'm very much a fixer. I'm like, okay, how can I help change this? But I have to challenge myself to, maybe they don't want to be fixed in that moment. They don't want that solution. They just want me to hear them. They just want to be heard. And so instead of me trying to say, okay, I need to fix this problem, I need to, tell you what I would do, I'm just saying, okay, I hear you. Avoiding the concern of others. And that goes into that, because if I'm just listening to respond, I'm not really concerned about what you're concerned about or what you might feel that you're struggling with. So that's super important. So what are some of the skills for good communication? So active listening, and that's where you're listening, you're using all of your five senses, right? So you're not listening to a person just saying, okay, are they going to finish? So because I need to go do this or I need to go do that, but you're staying very present in the moment of the conversation. Nonverbal communication. So when we all give out cues, especially physical cues, right? So being able to know what is their nonverbal communication. Going to bring you in here. So when we think about nonverbal communication and you think about, okay, what are some ways that we communicate with one another? So if you have to think about, okay, what's one way that I show nonverbal communication, where it's something that my body is doing or something I might be doing where you like, this is communicating something to you?
Well, I think you actually touched on this in one of the previous things of when we wake up in the morning, you aren't much in the mood to talk at all. So I usually get a two taps on the shoulder to say yes or no, or I acknowledge your presence.
It also means I love you.
That too. That has been a response.
So that's kind of things, it's just like, yeah, I told y'all before, I'm not a morning person. So that two taps, for you, like, I know when I see you, like, you get like this really look of worry on your face, and I know you're really like receding into yourself. And so that's when I might know to say, okay, let me ask what's going on. Because you have like this worried look. And I know that you're not going to say it, but you're kind of just like, okay, I'm dealing with something internally. And so then that's when I'm like, what's going on? So that's like a nonverbal cue for me. Asking questions. So again, the other person, whether it's a friend, whether it's a spouse, no matter what, they're not going to know what you need, how you feel, unless you ask them questions or unless they ask you questions. So making sure that you're not afraid to ask the hard questions. You don't have to be as formal. Like, I would go to all these like marriage seminars and they'd be like, ask your spouse, how can I serve you today? I can't say that I've actually said that, but I might be like, is there anything that you need today? Is there anything I could, and Cliff is really good about doing that. He'll be like, is there anything I can do for you today? Is there any way I can make, especially in the morning when I'm like rushing out, if I'm leaving before him, he's like, is there anything I can do to make your day easier? And so that's communicating. That's, because he could just say, I'm going to make your lunch for you. But if I don't want you to make my lunch for me, then you're not asking or you're not concerned with what I might need. So that question is going to be important. Being clear. So again, being very direct with what you need and what you don't need is important. And we'll kind of get to that later about how you use those assertive skills. Being empathetic. So again, that's putting yourself in that other person's shoes. So instead of trying to say, okay, how can I fix this? What do I need to do to make this better for you? Just say, okay, let me just take a second and put myself in your situation. And how do I just hear your heart and what you need? And then providing feedback. So I think that's another thing that we do a lot is like constantly providing feedback of saying, okay, how is this going? I try to do this. Is this working? Is this not working? If it's not working, what can we do? So, and again, this is in friendships too. I will constantly, talk to my friends, say, okay, hey, we're not spending enough time together. Can we plan a date or, what can we do to make sure that we're spending more time together or whatever that looks like. But I even check in with my friends and I want feedback. How can I be a better friend? So knowing your communication style is really, really important. So when you think about communication styles, there's a couple, it's really a spectrum and people usually fall somewhere in there, but there are three main communication styles. So that's being a passive communicator, being an aggressive communicator, or an assertive. Assertive is kind of that mix of the two, right? So a passive communicator is somebody who they feel their needs don't really matter. They give in a lot. They're not talking and they're not being heard. An aggressive communicator would be someone that thinks that only their words matter. They're constantly they're talking over people, only looking out for themselves. And then there's an assertive, and that's where you find that balance, right? So you're there recognizing that your needs matter just as much as anyone else. So my needs matter, your needs matter. So that's going to cause us to compromise. And that's going to be that talking, that listening, there's a give and there's a take. So you don't want to really fall, it's best to fall in that assertive category. So how to communicate assertively. So I statements. I statements are super important because they're being clear. You're communicating your needs. So you're being able to say, okay, hey, I would like you to. Can you think of a time when you used an I statement?
Well, I remember when we before we got married, we were doing like a little contract things where we were trying to just go over different things that we wanted from each other, things that we wanted to be important.
Mm-hmm.
And I told you that I would like you to play video games with me at least on a weekly basis.
Yes, I've been failing at that. I'm sorry.
We are
but yeah, and then if that's communicating exactly what you want and that's being clear, right? So for him, it's like, I want you to play video games with me weekly. I don't always do that, but he's communicated it that that's what he wants. And then often if I say, okay, yeah, let's do it, then I know that sometimes he'll give me an out, but yeah.
Sometimes even I don't play video games, so it's okay.
Yeah. And then for me, we had another good example, something that actually happened to us this week. So it was Cliff made my lunch for me and brought it to work, and I was okay. And so I was like, thank you. I really appreciate you making this lunch for me. I would like you to cut it diagonally next time. And that's just my preference. But again, if I don't communicate that, he's not going to know what I want, what I like. He's just going to be like, boom, I made you a sandwich. I'm the best in the world, which you are the best in the world, but I just like my sandwiches diagonally. So but if I don't communicate that, and let's say if he started cutting them in squares, then internally I'm just going to be like, he don't really care about what I want. He just cut my sandwich in squares. He don't care. But how is he going to know what I want if I don't communicate that, right? So I statements. And they also take the blame. So if instead of me saying, so imagine if I'm like, you never make my sandwiches right. How does that feel, right? Yeah. Versus me saying, I thank you for making my sandwich. I really like my sandwiches cut diagonally. So I'm communicating now, number one, in a much softer way because that blame is not on him, right? But then I'm able to say, okay, like now he can see what diagonal. Yes, Eric, I want triangles. It might be the kid in me, but I've always liked my sandwiches diagonal. How do you like your sandwiches cut? Or you don't? You just like to attack the whole thing, right?
I just like sandwiches.
As long as it's a sandwich, it doesn't matter what, Eric, you must be of the square population, or do you just like the whole sandwich yourself too? So then the second thing, so after those I statements, you want to describe how another person's behavior makes you feel. So for example, if you say, when you raise your voice, it makes me scared, I would like you to speak softly. So number one, you're addressing the fact that when they do this behavior, this is how it makes you feel. You're not saying, you always yell at me, you always raise your voice at me. You're saying, when you do this, I feel like this. And then I would like you to speak softly. So do you want to give an example of what you told me earlier?
Yes.
Oh, hey, DJ. Sorry, hold on one second. We got a pop up on the screen. Oh, no. Okay, there we go.
I was saying that when you boss talk me, it makes me feel, I didn't go over the makes me feel part, but
didn't.
I guess it makes me feel,
I think you said like not valued.
A little bit, yeah. It makes me feel undervalued.
Yeah. So then when your I statement was,
I honestly don't remember.
I would like you
to help me out, please.
So I would like you to not boss something. It was just mainly like sometimes I can get into a mode where I'm like, we need to do this and you need to do this, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, I don't like when you boss talk me. So I was like, okay, so when I boss talk you, that makes you feel a certain type of way. So, his I statement was like, I would like you to not do that. I thought, for me, one of my things going into like dating and even in my friendships, I don't like people to raise their voice. I grew up with people, raising their voice. Yes, DJ. So we're talking about effective communication skills. So we talked a little bit about barriers. Right now we're talking about the different skills of how to communicate effectively. Excuse me. So for me, when people raise their voice at me, it makes me feel like I'm not heard. It makes me feel like they're controlling. It makes me feel like they don't really value what I have to say. And that if it's their way or the highway. And so I'm like, I like people to speak calmly to me, even in the midst. That's so good. Always asking for eye contact when talking to me. Hate speaking through walls or from other rooms. That's so good. So for some people, they might not be able, to have that contact, but if eye contact, but if that's something that you need, saying, I need you to look me in my eye when you talk to me, and being able to communicate that. So I really like that one. I like eye contact too. I think it can be a little intense for some people. If they're just like looking and you're like, whoa, can you but it's definitely something that is good. Number 3 is stick to your guns. So they call this the broken record technique. So they gave an example, and again, all of the links that I'm bringing stuff from, I'll share with you guys. So they gave an example of saying, okay, let's say if you're talking to a customer service representative and you're like, I would like a refund. And they're like, well, ma'am, maybe we can give you a percentage off. It's like, that's nice, but I would like a refund. And they're like, okay, well, ma'am, how about we just replace the product for you? I hear what you're saying, but I would like a refund. And again, you're saying, this is what I need. And a lot of times we have to be assertive and we have to continue to be redundant with the things that we're saying, because we're showing that this really matters to me and I'm going to stick to my guns. Someone asking if they're done, that just means you've spoken it. Yes, and so we talked about that earlier, DJ, when people are kind of just listening just to respond and not to actually hear and understand. So it's all about, okay, as soon as you're done, I know exactly what I'm going to say, and it doesn't have anything to do with, okay, did I actually listen to hear and understand you and make sure that I knew what you needed from this conversation? So the next thing I kind of want to post to you guys, I'm going to post a clip as well, but how was communication modeled for you? So I'll give an example. For me, I really didn't see a lot of healthy communication. I saw a lot of yelling when I was growing up, and not always, but it would happen. It was modeled between maybe my mom and my dad, maybe between my dad and me, and different things. And so it wasn't like, let's sit down and resolve our problems. It was like, I'm gonna cuss you out, I'm gonna be mad, and then I'm gonna go away. No, DJ, this is not. So I do something every Thursday called Therapy Thursdays. For all those who are new, thank you guys for coming in. But every Thursday evening, I'm coming in and I'm talking about different topics that are voted on throughout the week. And people are able to come in and chime in on the discussion because I'm a therapist. And so I feel like some people might not go to therapy, but if this is a good instance where they can talk about different things or any questions you might have for a therapist, then I wanted to bring that because my main passion is about educating, especially in marginalized populations and minority communities. I feel like there's such a taboo about therapy and about these topics. And so let's talk about them and make it more normalized so that people can be healed. That is that. So how was communication modeled for you when you think about what communication looked like for you?
Well, my parents, they've known each other since they were like 9 and 10. They've been married about 52, 51 years now.
Mm-hmm.
So they grew up as friends. So it was just conversation. They talked to each other like friends. They talked to each other that like they've known each other forever.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been important for me in communication. Just making sure that we can just have like just talk to each other.
Yeah.
That it doesn't have to be anything like epic, or it doesn't have to look like a soap opera or anything.
Yeah.
We can just talk like we're doing now.
Yeah. And that's super important. And so for me, and I was kind of on that same wavelength of, because I didn't see that modeled. I saw it modeled in some people around me. I will say that I had a lot of healthy examples too. But for me, I kind of had expectations of standards of how I wanted communication to be, which I suggest for any person, even if you're already married, or if you're dating, or if you're single, have these expectations of what do I want my communication to look like, and talk to your partner about that, and being able to say, okay, when I grew up, I didn't have that loving, supportiveness, so this is what I need, or this is what I want that to look like, or having like deal breakers. I know for us, we talked about no cussing at each other, no raising our voices and stuff. And if we get to a point, that, we feel like we're about to go there, then it's like, okay, that needs to be deaded right now. So, just having those things of saying, okay, this is what communication looks like. And it's not always going to be perfect. I can say, even me being a therapist, like, I feel I'm very emotionally intelligent, but I still have my days, right? And so it's being able to just be honest with yourself and with a partner and saying, okay, if I'm having a bad day, I'm not going to put myself in a position where I might say anything damaging to you. So I need to, check myself as well. And so that's an important communication too. Before you go and talk to somebody, what state of mind are you in? Being able to say, okay, am I even in a place where I can communicate healthily? Because a lot of times we think we just have to talk about something just because an issue comes up. That's not always the case. Sometimes you need to settle that within yourself first and then go and talk to the person. So again, there's different types of relationships. So there's healthy relationships, there's unhealthy relationships, and then there's abusive relationships. And so some of those characteristics of a healthy relationship, you're going to be communicating, is going to be respectful, trusting, honest. There should be some form of equality that is felt, and you're going to enjoy the personal space. So that means that person feels free to be them, whatever that looks like, whatever expectations and standards that you guys have. That freedom may look different in different situations, but being able to say, okay, making sure you really don't lose your identity. That's the most important part, is that you don't lose your identity in a relationship, or even in a friendship, that you don't become so enmeshed with somebody and doing that. Erica said, let me answer DJ's question. So you said, yes, please share the video. If you have, please share it. Yes, absolutely. Eric, you only learned the silent treatment during disagreements. Took me years to reverse the behavior, learning to communicate even during disagreement. Absolutely. And so when you think about it, okay, how did that make you feel when that silent treatment was going on? So being able to communicate to your partner and say, if you give me the silent treatment, it makes me feel like this. This is what happened for me, and I don't like that. So I need you to talk to me. And again, you might not be able to resolve something right in that moment, but you might say, okay, hey, we're going to agree to 2 hours from now, we're going to both take some space, and then in 2 hours, let's come back to this. Or tomorrow, let's talk about it. A lot of times you hear that thing of saying, like, never go to bed angry. I don't necessarily believe in that. I think that if you go to bed and you wake up and it's still really pressing on you, then it's an important matter that you should talk about. I do think that you should, not go to bed like in unforgiveness. I do believe in like forgiving your partner and forgiving and making sure that the love is still there, because I'm one of those people, I think life is too short to really hold on to stuff like that. But I think it's important, if something is really bothering you, that you should talk about it. I don't think you should just sweep it under the rug because you don't want to go to bed angry, because that's not solving anything. That issue is still going to be there. Unhealthy relationship. Thank you, Brett. Unhealthy relationship is not communicating. It's disrespectful. It's not trusting. It's dishonest. It tries to take control. You feel smothered, or you forget to spend time with others. And so a lot of times when we see those really unhealthy relationships, not that there's nothing wrong with always wanting to be around your partner, but when it gets to an unhealthy place of you're not spending time with anybody else, that person takes up all of your time, all of your energy, and that's when it really gets to that unhealthy place. It gets abusive when there's also disrespect. There might be false accusations of that person of either like lying or cheating. You don't take any responsibility or accountability for abusive communication. There's control of a partner or isolation of a partner. So a lot of times abuse is not always physical. That abuse might mean that, okay, I'm going to keep you so isolated from the rest of your family, from the rest of your friends, that you now don't have any support system but me. So a lot of times people think abusive and they think, okay, that person has to be, being beaten, or that person has to be, sexually abused or anything. And abuse can very much emotional abuse, mental abuse, that is so real. And so if you're hearing these things, it's so important. Number one, make sure that you're support for that person, but let them know, like, that's abuse. Just because you don't have scars does not mean that it's not abuse.
It can also happen to men and women.
Absolutely. So there is no gender, there is no, race for abuse. It's all across the board. So how do you resolve conflict in a relationship? Because relationships are going to have conflicts, right? So you focus on the problem and not the person. So again, instead of me saying, okay, look, this floor is never clean, and this, and you do this, and I just think you're blah, 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 blah. It might be like, hey, we have a high traffic area, so man, it's really easy for our floors to get dirty. So maybe we can focus on working as a team to figure out how we can keep the floor clean. And so again, that's now focusing on the problem versus the person. I'm not saying, okay, you're doing this or you're doing this or you're not doing this. I'm saying, okay, this is the problem. How can we attack it as a person? Because remember, your partner, the friend that you might have, you guys are supposed to be teammates. You're not supposed to be competition. Using reflective listening. So again, that's making sure that you're repeating what they're saying. So, if you telling me, I don't know, tell me anything. Just give me a statement.
Water is wet.
Water is wet. Okay, so water is wet. So what I'm hearing you say is that water is like a liquidy surface and that it feels wet to you? Okay. So that's like an example, of reflective listening. So you're just making sure, again, that shows a person that you are listening to understand. Again, using those I statements, knowing when to take a time out. We talked about that a minute ago, right? Being able to say, okay, hey, I'm a little too hot in this situation right now. I cannot deal with this. I can't, focus on that. And giving your partner or giving your friend the space to say, okay, that's cool. Because remember, that healthy relationship is giving that person that personal space, not just for them to do whatever they want, but if they need a time to process things, then you're giving them the space to do that. Because not everybody can deal with and process in the moment. I know for me, I like to process things internally, so I might need to figure out something, of how I want to deliver what I say. So it might be that, you might say, okay, it seems like something wrong with you. So I'm going to acknowledge that something is wrong. Like, yeah, but, let me process it a little bit and then we can talk about it, because I really don't know exactly what's going on. Because it can't be very much that sometimes there'll be an issue going on and you don't know why you feel the way you do. You just recognize, like, I don't feel so good about this. So. And then you're working towards a resolution. Again, you guys are on the same team. This can be a marriage, this can be friendship, whatever, but just knowing you guys are in this relationship where you're hoping to build your communication, so you should be partners and you should not be competitors. Have you guys heard about the apology languages? Has anybody heard about apology languages? While I find it really quickly. And if you have heard about apology languages, do you know what yours are? Do you remember what your apology language is?
I was actually just looking at it, but I don't remember what it is. If I saw it, I probably remember.
No? Okay. So just like the 5 love languages, there are 5 love languages, acts of service, giving gifts, physical touch, quality time. What's the one I'm missing? Acts of service, giving gifts, physical touch, quality time, words of affirmation. And so just like there's 5, there's love languages, there's also apology languages. So if you guys have never heard of that, there's a quiz you can take online. It's by Gary Chapman. It's the 5lovelanguages.com. You go on there, you can take the love languages quiz, find out what your love language is. Because again, I guess we can talk about that. That's communication too. If my love language is acts of service, your love language is quality time. So if Cliff is constantly just like, I'm spending all day with you, why do you not feel loved? I'm like, because for me, active service. But when he tells me like, hey, I know that you said you were going to wash the dishes this week, but I just washed them for you because I know you had a stressful week. I'm like, oh, thank you. You know, that's my love language. And for him, I know if I do something for him, I'm like, hey, I got all your work clothes out for you, you know, that, and he'd be like, cool, thanks. But that might not be filling his love cup like it would if I was like, hey, I got 4 hours of free time. Let's do something together. Then you're going to be like, oh, snap, yeah. So, you know, you have to speak in others' love languages. There's love languages that you use in friendship. And then also there's love languages that you can use for your children, because children are just little people. So they have their own love languages too. I know our daughter's love language is quality time. Quality time. She likes words of affirmation too, but quality time. If you don't spend time with her, she's going to make sure she's going to climb all over you. She's going to be like, pay attention to me. So knowing her love language, we have to speak in her love language. Otherwise, she feels that deficit. So just like there's love languages, there are apology languages. So there are 5. The first one is expressing regret. So that's basically being able to say, I apologize. The second is accepting responsibility. So that's saying, I was wrong. The third, making restitution. What can I do to make it right? The fourth is genuinely repenting. I'll try not to do that again. The fifth is requesting forgiveness. Will you please forgive me? Do you remember from there?
I think it was expressing regret. Just saying sorry and just like acknowledging that you like messed up. It goes a long way. Yeah.
That's not my apology language. My apology language is accepting responsibility. I like people to take accountability. So you can say you're sorry all day long, but I need you to know why you're sorry, like acknowledging what you did wrong and saying, okay, I was wrong that I did that. Because to me, sorry, it's just like a blanket. It feels good, yeah, but it's like I need you to get to the core of the issue of this is how you hurt me. So that's kind of more of me. So that was that. So we have a love building activity that we actually did earlier to try it out. We're going to do a smaller version of it today. So instead of us both answering the question, I'm just going to ask the question and we'll both just go back and forth and give the answer. This is something, again, you can do with your friends. You could do it with a partner or whatever, but this is just a way of practicing some of those communication skills. And again, I will have links to all of this so that you guys can get these resources. And so there's different statements. So we did this earlier. So we'll do it today. It's best if you can look at the person and talk to them. So I love you because. So I'm gonna let you go first and then I'll keep back more. So I love you because, and then you fill in the blank.
I love you because you have a heart of gold. You are a godly and intelligent and just all around awesome woman.
Oh, thanks. I do what I can though. But I do not like it when you. I do. We'll go back and forth. Okay. Dang, now I'm trying to remember what my thing was. Oh, I do not like when you make mouth sounds when you chew. Sorry. As a team, I would like us to work on.
As a team, I would like us to work on improving our health and improving our just overall quality of life.
Okay. It bothers me when we don't spend as much time in prayer as I know we could. Okay. But I love it when we just hang out, spend time together, and just goof around and have fun as friends. Awesome. I am sorry if I ever make you feel undervalued when I speak. And my hopes and dreams for you are
to do awesome things and feel like you are doing things that matter.
Cool. So that was just it's called a love building exercise. And so again, those are things you can do and you can change them up. You can make your own questions, but these are ways just that you can build the communication with your friends, with your partner. And you kind of because so many times, right, we just are in these relationships or in these friendships, but how many times do we really check in the health of them? And so we really like to do check-ins a lot. We like to give each other feedback a lot and say, okay, how are we doing? What could be better? So I think that's really important, especially, you know, the longer the friendship is, the longer the relationship is, because you always want to make that person feel like you value what they say, you value what they feel. Absolutely. I'm going to have links. I'm going to have links in the description for you guys. When I share the video, once it's set for the replay, I will have links to everything. Cliff knocked it out the park. I know, right? He been practicing or something. I had to go to church for a few hours, so he was practicing. But yeah, so that's all I have for you guys today. Do you guys have any questions as far as when it comes to communication, when it comes to, you know, communicating, solving conflicts? Any other questions? Like I said, if you just always wanted to ask a therapist something, this is the time to do that. If you have any questions for us, I guess, I mean, Cliff is always in the comments, but, you know, he might be on the camera from time to time.
Yay.
Depending on the subjects I have. Hey, Katie girl. So yeah, I'll, you know, see if you guys, again, I will post links to where you guys can find me, more information. Like I said, I'm with Chicago Christian Counseling Center. They have offices all over the place. I am at their Evergreen Park and Orland Park locations. I am currently pretty full. I also do not counsel people that I know. That is we talked about healthy boundaries, I think, the first time. And so that is one of the boundaries I have. I don't counsel people I know. However, I'm always here just to be supportive for my friends and, you know, when they need me. But I really have to draw that boundary of not getting totally consumed by my work in my personal life, or bringing work into my personal life. But I have tons of people that I can refer you to. As always, I'll make sure I post that link, and it talks all about our services. All of the therapists, we have little bios that talk about our specialties. So you'll be able to see that, you know, there are some people who specialize just with children, some just with couples, different issues. So whatever you might need, we have awesome therapists who do that. And yeah, I'm suggesting influencing someone to do the exercise with you. I mean, you could see, I'm a very direct person. I'm very much like, hey, I want to do this exercise, you know, you down to do it? But you're maybe not as direct as I am. So like, what would be, if you were trying to influence somebody to do that exercise with you, what would you say?
Maybe I would just, I don't know, mention it in casual conversation, just like bring it up as like a I don't know, I can't think of a word for something that just ain't that important. Just like, I was looking at this one exercise, blah, 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 blah. It seemed pretty cool. And just like, hey, come take a look at this. Tell me what you think. And just, I don't know, play off of that maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. If you really want them to do it, like, I wonder then why they're not open to, like, why you feel like they might not be open to it. So, yeah, or just like, hey, I'm trying to work on my communication. You know, I'm direct. Yeah, I mean, I say just be direct. That's just how I am. Like, hey, I want to improve our communication. And it could just be like, hey, I really want you to hear what I'm feeling. So I want to do this exercise so that, you know, you're clear on how I feel and, you know, the things that I really like and don't like and all that, and how we could grow together. Getting your participated. Yeah, it definitely can be. So, and maybe it might not be saying, hey, we're going to do this worksheet together. It might be, you know, that casual conversation, kind of like what Cliff was saying. So maybe it might be saying, okay, we're going to go while we're eating dinner. I might ask you one question a week. So if there's, you know, 5-6 questions on the thing, I'm going to ask you one question a week and just like, oh, you know, hey, are there any things that we do that you don't really like? Boom, I just asked you one of the questions. So, you know, you can slide it into casual conversation without saying, hey, let's do a worksheet together, because everybody is not always open to worksheets. So definitely get that. Well, do you have any closing thoughts? You don't have to. If you don't, I'll just, you know.
Okay.
I know, I don't want to put you on the spot.
So
yeah, thank you guys for coming in and joining in the conversation. If you have something that you wanted to ask that maybe you didn't want to do publicly in the comments, you can send me a message. Other than that, I am excited for next week. I think what I'm going to do is, I got so many great suggestions for topics. So I'm just about to start pulling from those. I'm just going to pull it random. What I'm going to do is write all the topics down on pieces of paper. I'm going to put them into like a little bowl or something like that, and then just pull them out. So that's going to be kind of my forward until I run out of topics, because you guys have given me some amazing topics. So I'm just going to pick topics that way. Until then, I'll also be making that announcement, of course. But again, thank you guys so much. So next Thursday, there will be a topic. So I will be announcing that topic by Tuesday. What our next topic will be. I'm not sure if I have a guest speaker or not. I guess it depends on what the topic is. It might just be me. So yeah, I'm so glad you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much for the feedback. And look, I'm open to all kinds of feedback. So if you're like, hey, I like it, but maybe I'd like you to do this, or to, I feel like you could communicate this differently, or, hey, start involving some of this, please, guys. All feedback is welcome. I definitely want this to be something that you guys view as beneficial and really, really helpful, and something that you can share, you can use to learn and grow, and for healing, because, we're all very complex people, but I feel like the more work that we do on ourselves, then we're constantly getting to that higher self, and we're constantly getting to where I really feel that God is calling us to be. So thank you guys for your support, and I will talk to you next week.
Have a good night.
See you later.